Hello, Mike here. You may have noticed I haven't been as active as usual, but most of you probably knows why already. This past Tuesday, I joined Prophets of Rage on stage playing Bulls on Parade when they were doing their show in Sweden. And I have been getting a lot of questions about how this all came together, and so I thought that I might talk about this for a while. This is the story. Last year, I was supposed to meet with them when they were visiting Sweden. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. The security was too tight, and I was very disappointed. But we were saying that we would try again the next time they were coming to Sweden, which turned out to be the very next year. And so, when they announced that they would be coming to Sweden, I got in contact with some people in the band and some people that are close to the band. And it turned out that they put me and my best friend on the guest list. So we got the special treatment. And then, when we arrived at the venue, I noticed that there was a second Marshall stack, and Tom Morello, most of the time, he has a backup amp, but that one is usually sitting behind his main amp, and this second Marshall stack was standing almost in front of the mixing console. And so I thought, I didn't know they were bringing any guest player. And then I got a bit bitter for a second, thinking, well, if someone is going to guest, I should be that guy. But then I saw Tom's guitar tech, and since we have been talking for a while, I started to call his name, and he came down when we talked for a bit, and he gave me a hint that something might be cooking, which felt pretty exciting, but I didn't want to jump to any conclusions. Then we started seeing that everyone in the Professor Rage crew were pointing at me and whispering to each other, and they were looking at me the whole time, smiling. And so I got to understand that something was up. And also, this guitar tech gave me the advice to maybe stand in front of Tom, which of course I did. I would have done it anyway. As the concert was getting towards the end, Tom took the mic and announced that first he told a story about how he hurt his hand, and then he ended the speech by asking if there was someone who could play any Rage Against the Machine, and of course I would raise my hand announcing my candidacy. And I was selected by Tom. At the time, I was so focused on playing guitar, so I just got up, and I was thinking that I maybe would be playing on his backup guitar, the Hippo 2, through the second Marshall amp. But it turned out that I got to play the real Arm the Homeless guitar through his main rig, the legendary amp, his regular pedal board, and again, at the time, I didn't feel very. If someone would have told me this before, I would have been stoked. But when it actually happened, it felt pretty natural. And I was so focused on the task that I was just going, okay, now we're going to do this. And so I got up. Uh, Tom would very nicely tell me how it would go, how it were going to be. He told me that Brad would count in, and Brad looked at me and said, "This is going to be okay." I turned to my left, and Timmy C was standing there, and he's telling me, "Don't fuck this up, man." And I laughed a bit and said, no, it's going to be okay. But he said, "No, I mean it seriously. Don't fuck this up. Don't fuck this up." Someone might be have someone may be afraid when you have a frightening cage fighter telling you that you mustn't fuck up. But I was very confident in my ability to play. And so I thought to myself, well, we'll see how it turned out. We'll see how it will turn out. I for sure will bring my A game. Then Brad counted, and then all hell broke loose. And it was a great experience. I didn't have much time to reflect while being on stage. Like I said, it all felt pretty natural, and I played like I would play with anyone. At the time, I didn't really think about that. Right now, I'm on stage with Tom Morello, my hero for the past 20 years. Brad Wilk and Timmy C, also from Rage Against the Machine, which has been my favorite band of all times. To me, they're the best band of all times. And then we have Be Real, who is a legendary rapper from Cypress Hill. Chuck D, who is probably the biggest legend of them all. And I'm on stage with those guys. But I didn't feel frightened. It felt like I was part of the band, and I didn't try to take any extra space or anything. I just wanted to be a part of the group for that, for that the chance that they were giving to me. The audience responded very well, and I got to, after I got off the stage, I got to sit side stage and watch the rest of the show. It was awesome. After the show ended, I was invited backstage to talk to them, and I got to tell you, everyone in the band and the crew was so nice to me and very supportive, and they were all fist bumping me. Timmy was the first guy I met afterwards, and he was really excited and telling me how it was incredible, and that they had seen all my Instagram videos, and they thought it was amazing but also hilarious, and he couldn't view them because it felt very weird, and then he changed his mood and told me that if someone would have copied him and had the same gear, he would have been pissed. At that point, I laughed, and the security guy and some other guy from the crew, they also laughed, and they asked him, "Really? You would be pissed?" And he was like, "Yeah, I would be pissed." I didn't take it very seriously, but it was really funny. Then I talked to Brad, and Brad, the funny thing is, you have heard people telling you how the different members of the band are, and the thing is, they're exactly like I've heard. Timmy's a funny guy, but he's a very special guy. Brad is the gentle, soft-spoken guy, who wants everyone to feel good, and Tom is the guy who always has a smile on his face. He seems like a genuinely nice guy who always care about everybody. Of course, that's not true, but that's how you feel when you meet him. With Brad, we talked about how it felt for me to be playing with my heroes, and I think he understood how, when I tried to explain to him. And then I talked to DJ Lord. Uh, they were sitting they were sitting down to eating their dinner. And then came Chuck D. And the first thing he says is, "I recognize you. You were playing the dressing room last year, right?" And I was like, no, I didn't. Oh. And then he was silent for a while, and then he said, "Oh, no, now I know. I've seen your videos." Then they were very kindly asking me if I wanted to have anything to drink or to eat. And they said I could just go up to their the dressing rooms and the smoking room. And I did, and I talked a bit to Be Real. Then I came down again and talked to Slim, Tom's guitar tech. And then finally Tom came down and we talked a bit, and he was very happy. He also thought this was incredibly fun, and he told me he thinks I had talent. And then we talked a bit about his hand injury, and I asked him how it occurred. And then it was time to leave because they were going to eat and then leave for their hotel. But Tom asked if I wanted to take any pictures first, so I took some pictures with him and me, and then I took some pictures with Slim. Then I got out, and as I came out, there were a lot of people waiting for the band to come out to sign things, but most of them recognized me, and so I can say they were fans, but there were some people coming up to me and asking who I am and how this all occurred, why they chose me. Oh, and also, Brad told me that the band had planned this all along. Since Tom hurt his hand and had a surgery on Saturday and played Tuesday, so it was very little time in between. It was really up in the air whether or not they would be able to come to Sweden. But the band had known about me, and so they had talked within the band that if Tom for some reason wouldn't be able to finish the show, they would ask me to come up and play with them and play the songs that I know, which happens to be every song in the Prophet's Rage and Rage Against the Machine catalog. That's a funny thing. I think since I have seen my videos, I think they knew that I can play the songs, but I don't think they knew or expected me to be able to translate it when being on the stage in front of thousands of people, also playing with a huge group of people you have never played with. But I think I've proved that I have what it takes, and I think that's why a lot of people thought that this whole thing was staged. it was a little too good to be true. Then the band, or Tom and Tim, came out first, and they were taking pictures with the fans, and they were signing some CDs and whatever people wanted. And I stood last in line, and I talked a bit to Timmy again, and he was still being this a little strange, giving me the crooked eye, and telling me that he would be pissed. But just as they were about to leave, he smiled and told me that this was awesome. And then we shared some more words about their upcoming record. But the funny thing was when I talked to him, and Tom interrupted to say goodbye and shake my hand again, and then they left. Then I didn't speak to them anymore, but I sent them personal messages through social media to thank them for everything. This was an incredible experience for me, and I think this is one of the highlights of my life, and it will be very hard to top. So that was pretty much the whole story.